So, I think we were all at least a little caught off guard by the ending of Across the Spiderverse. As if the big reveal of Miles being the original anomaly wasn't enough, then we got the cliffhanger with Miles ending up in the wrong dimension and then trapped by his own evil alternate self. We can infer that Miles' immediate goals are to escape the grasp of Prowler, return to his home dimension, and save his father. However, Miguel warned him that doing such a thing could cause Miles' entire dimension to collapse. But does that actually hold any weight? Let's look at what happened with Miguel. He encountered a dimension where he'd had a family and a happy life, but the version of himself from that dimension tragically died. Miguel took up living a life in a dimension that he did not belong in while leaving behind his own. He didn't just change one thing by doing so, but his decision had ripples because he stayed there long term. He tried to do something similar to what Kingpin did in the first movie. Now let's look at Miles' situation. He learns that a so-called canon event in his dimension will be the death of his father at the hands of the Spot. Because Miles now knows this ahead of time, he has the ability to prevent it from happening. But the other Spider-Folk inform him that doing such a thing could cause the destruction of Miles' dimension. Miles is not keen to simply let his father be killed, however, seemingly not believing that fate is set in stone the way that the others believe it is. But will this cause chaos for Miles' dimension? I think not, and here's why. Miles himself is a so-called anomaly because the spider that bit him and gave him his powers wasn't supposed to do so since it wasn't from his dimension. Based on that event alone, I think that if Miles' dimension was going to collapse, it would have already. Additionally, since this makes Miles' Spider-Man origin story different than all the others, perhaps his dimension has been affected in such a way that it won't implode if Miles tries to save his father. Miguel tried to replace an entire person. Miles is only trying to save one. So what will happen in Beyond the Spiderverse? Based on the title, we can infer that the characters may find some way to go outside the web that connects their dimensions and discover what or who is behind these so-called canon events. Perhaps the Spot will become so powerful that he discovers the fabric binding dimensions together and the space between them, and the heroes will follow him there to stop him. Alternatively, or additionally, Miles may go searching for the origin of canon events to try to stop his father's death and the possibility of his dimension falling apart if he does so. I also want to talk about how Miles' decision to try to save his father despite the opposition really cements him as a hero. Heroes do what they know is right, even when everyone stands against them. Miles recognizes that as Spider-Man, it is his job to save people whenever he can. He has no definitive proof that his dimension will fall apart if he saves his father, but he does have reasonable proof that his father will die if Miles does nothing to prevent it. He has already experienced the pain of not being able to save someone he loves, that being Uncle Aaron, and now he has witnessed a dimension where his father did die, so he is bound to be extra motivated not to fail this time. If he had known about Uncle Aaron's death ahead of time like he now does with his father, he would certainly have tried to prevent that one too. Even in the real world, suffering is almost never inevitable. The world isn't perfect, but there are always things that can be done to alleviate pain and hardship. When evil people want to act against others, we can stop them. People who have privilege that makes them able to change the world for the better have a responsibility to do so. They may not succeed every time, but they know they have to try. That philosophy is something that superhero stories and characters have always represented since their inception, and the Spider-Verse movies' Miles Morales lives up to that legacy. So what do you think? Do you agree with my speculations and predictions? What do you believe Miles' behavior signifies about him as a character? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. If you're not already subscribed, be sure to do so and turn on notifications to keep up with my coverage of all my favorite media. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.